A man in a lab coat stands near high-tech instruments. He picks up the flask in his hands and declares with delight that he succeeded. The man says that now the system will be able to inhabit the host and says that this will change the whole world. The flask contains a piece of black crystal. The scientist peers into the flask. The black crystal glows and radiates energy around itself. The scientist admires the enormous power of this object. A huge explosion occurs at a secret military base in America. People are screaming and don't understand what's happening. In China, the news says that recently cases of alien attacks have become more frequent around the world. This entails sacrifices. The news reports say that the military police are unable to fight back the monsters, and many residents have been killed right on the streets of the city. A young guy is sitting in his room. He watches the news, which says that experts have begun developing countermeasures against the alien invasion. The guy is unhappy that his food is poorly prepared. A notification arrives on his smartphone. It's about the fact that a new section of his favorite manga has been released. The guy's name is Song Cheng. He is 22 years old and lonely. He says he's not interested in aliens and universes when a new chapter of his favorite manga comes out. The guy lives in a dirty room, works in a dead-end job, and expects nothing from life except manga. A glowing purple crystal shard flies into his window with a whirring sound. The fragment heads towards the hero while he is carefree reading the manga. Crystal says a perfectly compatible body was found. The crystal then flies into the back of the protagonist's head. He screams in fear and surprise and drops the phone. A loud sound is heard. The glass in the windows of the main character's room cracks and falls out. A purple flash is sent from the main character's house and flies up. The main character screams. He is completely bewildered and swears, not understanding what is happening to him. A system notification appears, which says that the host has been successfully entered and the interceptor system has been activated. The hero writhes in pain, and his skin changes and turns green. The system says that the process of strengthening the flesh has been started. The main character screams that he is in pain and that he is about to be torn apart. Finally the action stops, the glow disappears, and the hero's skin returns to normal. The hero curses and begins to lose consciousness. He is completely exhausted after what happened. The hero does not understand what happened. Finally, he falls to the ground and loses consciousness. The action then takes place the next morning, a few hours later. The guy gets up from the floor and holds his head. He grumbles and swears about a terrible migraine. He looks at his smartphone and realizes that it's already 10 o'clock in the morning. He understands that he needs to rush to work. The hero rises sharply from the floor and flies towards the ceiling. He doesn't understand why his body feels so light. He hits his head on the ceiling and doesn't understand what's happening. The hero begins to remember that yesterday he had a dream in which it was about an alien interception system. Suddenly the system contacts him and tells him that he will now carry out the most important mission to intercept the aliens using the interceptor system. The hero nervously thinks that he shouldn't have watched the news before going to bed, because now he has a dream that he has become a superhero. The hero decides that he is still dreaming and jumps out the window to try out new abilities. But he immediately notices with bewilderment that he is not flying, and begins to fall down. While falling, he sees a neighbor who looks in surprise at the guy flying down. The hero thinks that in his dream he has an attractive neighbor, and thinks that this may not be a dream. The hero thinks with fear that he might die by crashing on the asphalt. The system contacts him and tells him that finding a compatible host has been difficult, so it won't let him die so easily. The hero lands on the asphalt without damage. He realizes that the interceptor system is real and asks how he can save the world. The system says that first he needs to choose the class he will receive. The hero asks if this is cheating. A class selection screen appears in front of the guy. There is a scientist, cultivator, mutant and vampire class. The hero thinks about what to choose from the proposed options, and cannot decide. He likes them all at once and cannot choose just one. The system starts pushing him and tells him that if he doesn't choose within a few seconds, he will get a randomly selected class and ability. The hero asks not to put pressure on him and chooses the cultivator class and a skill called basic combat. The system says that the process of assigning skills has begun. The hero worries that he might have chosen something wrong. The hero notices quite well that it all feels pretty good. He crushes a piece of asphalt in his palm with his bare hands and says that now it means something to this world. The guy boasts smugly, but those around him shun him and consider him not completely mentally healthy. The system turns to the hero and says that if he does not complete the task on time, he will be punished. The guy is surprised that there are punishments here. The system states that the penalty for failing the current mission is sexual dysfunction for 3 years. The hero thinks that the system knows how to motivate him. Further action takes place in the city center. The news says that disappearances of girls have recently become more frequent. The reporter stands in front of the camera and says that there are witnesses who are ready to describe the suspect. The girl approaches the eyewitnesses and asks them for a description of the criminal. They start talking about his scary appearance. Suddenly a woman's body falls nearby. People around start screaming in fear. The crowd looks at the crime in horror and someone notices the criminal. In the distance stands an alien in the form of a man in traditional attire. He tells people to stand in awe of him. He holds the girl in his arms. He says that there is not a single decent girl on earth. He says that his hostage deserves to die and starts laughing. The reporter tells the cameraman not to miss the opportunity to film the famous maniac. The crowd is afraid of the maniac, and he runs down the wall of the building and shouts that he will first deal with the girl, and then with the others. At the same time, the hero jumps on the roofs of houses and runs in the direction of the alien. He sees the system interface. The system says that the alien is 500 meters away and recommends focusing on the target. The hero is pleased to note that after acquiring the skills, he does not feel pain in his legs when making huge jumps. The guy stops on the balcony when he notices that there is a crowd in front of him. The system notices the alien and points the hero to a target on the interface. The guy sees how the alien grabs the girl. She tries to resist. The hero thinks that the alien does not belong here. The alien continues to approach the girl. The system notes that this is a creature from dimension 1212 and that he is responsible for many murders. The hero notes in bewilderment that the alien's name, Dong Mengqin, is the name of a historical character. The system responds that this is not the same person. Since there are millions of universes, the hero thinks that if he gets caught on camera, his identity will be revealed. He grabs the face mask that was hanging on the balcony next to him. The hero continues jumping on rooftops and says that superheroes must keep their identities secret. The hero shouts to the alien to leave the girl alone. The alien asks who he is. A hero in a face mask confidently stands on the roof of a house and sternly tells the alien to let the girl go. The guy threatens the criminal, says that he is finished and calls him a dog. The alien does not understand where the main character came from. The guy keeps telling him to let the girl go. The villain pushes the girl away and says that he will deal with her after he deals with the main character. He confidently pulls out a sword from its sheath and begins to threaten the main character. The guy yells at him to wait and thinks that he didn't notice his sword. The villain shouts that no one will wait for him and attacks with the lightning sword technique. The guy dodges the attack. He thinks that he will be defeated so soon and asks the system to come up with something. The system tells the hero not to panic, because in 10 seconds it will create a weapon. A dark mass begins to form in his hand. The hero begins to run away from the enemy, and he gives chase. The guy thinks that thanks to his abilities he can anticipate his opponent's attacks. The alien swings his sword and says that the hero is just another victim of his blade. He starts to attack. The hero has nowhere to run. He is on the edge of the roof. A loud impact is heard and the alien is pushed away from the hero. The guy stands in a confident pose. In his hand is a huge spear. The system says that a weapon was created and the ability to strike with a spear was obtained. The enemy thinks hard that the hero is not so simple, since he was able to pull the weapon out of the air. The hero jumps up and begins to attack with a spear, using new skills. The hero makes several thrusts with a spear at the enemy while being right in the air. People below are filming what is happening on cameras and commenting that the hero is a martial arts master. The hero complains that he cannot defeat an alien of such a low rank. The system tells him to use unpredictable attacks. The hero attacks the enemy, and he says that he could not take him by surprise with such a simple technique. The alien counterattacks by slashing the hero with his sword. The hero thinks that the enemy has fallen for his trick. He uses both of his skills at the same time and performs a quick strike, spinning the spear around its axis. He successfully lands a strong blow to the opponent's side. It flies off in the opposite direction and hits the concrete with a loud sound. The alien is surprised by the hero's strength. He spits blood and invites the guy to part with the world. The hero says that if he can leave, he will get to the girls again. He gains a new spear technique and swings. The alien is surprised when he sees that this technique was lost long ago and thinks about what he can do to counter it. He performs the golden cup technique, which creates a transparent yellow force barrier around him. The hero readily flies towards the enemy with a spear. The hero hits the enemy's force barrier with a spear. When a collision occurs, sparks appear and a loud sound is heard. From the hero's blow, the enemy's barrier breaks and his sword cracks into fragments. The spear strike hits the alien. The hero throws his spear and forcefully sends his opponent flying. He swears. The alien flies into the roof, and the concrete cracks from the force of the impact. The hero breathes out a sigh of relief and lands on the ground. He says that he wants to hide the spear for a while and it disappears in his hand with a stream of purple energy. The alien lies unconscious and does not move. The hero thinks that he treated him cruelly, but the villain deserved it. Suddenly his body disappears and several objects lie in its place. The hero thinks that he received a gift. There is a wad of money and a jade amulet. The hero is surprised by the amount of money. As soon as the guy approaches them, the money disappears without a trace. The hero is surprised by this, but the system says that 200,000 have been added to his bank account. The hero picks up the amulet and thinks if it is worth the money and plans to ask his friend. The girl who was kidnapped by the alien finally comes to her senses and tells the guy that he is a real hero. She thanks him and hugs the hero, causing him to almost fall to the ground. The hero is embarrassed because this is the first hug of a girl in his life. He modestly says that there is nothing special about it. The system says that the police are approaching and that he needs to leave, since the existence of the powers must remain a secret. The hero is unhappy that he has to stop the hug. He tells the girl that she is now safe. The girl is fascinated by the hero and is sure that they will meet again. The hero runs away, and the girl regrets that she did not put on the lenses and could not see the hero's face. She's sure he was attractive. A police squad runs onto the roof and begins cordoning off the area. The police give the girl a blanket, ask if everything is okay and say that the mayor is waiting for her. She goes down and the mayor, who turns out to be her father, runs up to her, concerned about what happened. The girl tells her father that he is obliged to generously reward her savior, and the mayor agrees. A lady comes up to them, shows her badge and says that she is from the intelligence bureau. She is 23 years old and her name is Zhao Ling. She says that although the maniac committed several murders, the guy with the spear is now also a murderer. She states that law enforcement agencies do not tolerate lynching by civilians and leaves. The system tells the hero that he has successfully completed the task and talks about the reward. His characteristics have increased and an additional move has been added. The hero looks at the improvement tree in the system interface. His current level is a third-rate fighter. The hero says with satisfaction that he is a great fellow, since he was able to carry out such a battle without receiving a scratch. He calls an acquaintance named Chan and offers to meet. He says he needs help. He looks at the amulet. Next, the hero drives a car. His interlocutor tells him about the master of the spear, but the hero feigns ignorance. He says that everyone now only talks about him. He says that this man is a martial artist and tells the guy to watch the video of him. The hero takes a smartphone and notices that the video has already received many views in a short period of time. The hero watches the video contentedly. He thinks the Spearmaster title doesn't sound very good, but he likes his newfound reputation as a superhero. They arrive at the antique market and go inside. The saleswoman greets the protagonist's friend, whose name is Chang Yenwei. He is the son of a wealthy developer and a friend of the hero since childhood. The girl says that there was a new arrival recently and asks if they want to check it out. The hero pulls out the amulet and asks if they accept the jewelry. The girl takes a magnifying glass and begins to examine the object. She describes the amulet as an ancient item from the Tang dynasty and notes that it is made of rare material and has elaborate engravings. The girl says that it is better to sell such items at auctions, since this way the profit will be greater. An old man appears who says that if he sells here, he is ready to immediately pay 15 million. The saleswoman displeasedly tells the old man why he is interfering with the work of a small shop if he is a major collector of antiques. The old man says that last week such a thing was sold for 15 million, and that he does not want customers to be deceived. The girl says that she is offering 16 million yuan for the amulet. She looks at the main character from under the fan and asks if he agrees to that price. He thinks that he didn't even think that this thing was worth the money and agrees to the proposed price. The hero and his friend say goodbye and leave the antiques shop. The saleswoman asks the old man if he was too quick to name such a high price. He replies that such a jewel is actually much more expensive and its real value is 10 times higher. The girl grabs the old man's face and enthusiastically asks if the price of the thing is really 160 million yuan. The main character receives a notification on his phone that 16 million have been credited to his bank account. The hero happily says that until recently he did not believe that the old man had such sums. Chan says he knew they wouldn't be fooled. Chan asks if the hero has thought about his offer now that he has the money. The hero nods and says that he will do everything. After this, the hero comes to a huge office building. The hero walks forward and thinks that before he came here with reluctance, but now nothing can upset him. The girl at the counter calls him a loser and says that if he doesn't work for a few days, the manager will skin him. A guy walks into the office with his hands in his pockets and hears a man yelling at him. The man yells and says he couldn't reach him on the phone. The hero replies that his phone is broken and he just bought a new one. The man says that the hero also makes excuses. He turns to the rest of the employees and says that only losers do this. The rest of the workers look at the hero and laugh at him. The manager shouts that he can easily find a replacement for such a lazy and stupid employee. The hero thinks that the manager would not have been able to get the position if not for family ties. The man continues to shout that the hero is being fined and that next time he will be fired. The hero thinks that the rest of the employees are ready to laugh at the others, but as soon as something needs to be done, they immediately calm down. The hero imagines his employees as ducks. He can't hold back and starts laughing. The manager gets even angrier because the hero started laughing. The hero's phone rings and he says that he will answer the call. He grabs the manager's face, covering his mouth. The hero takes a smartphone and greets Fat Man Chan. Chan tells him on the phone that he has already bought a villa and a jeep. As the guy asked, he tells the hero to come down. The employees are surprised and do not believe that the hero now has a villa and a jeep. A car horn is heard. The girl looks out the window and says that there really is a fat man standing next to the jeep. The employees look down and discuss how the car costs at least 5 million and pay attention to his new phone. The employees do not understand what happened to the hero and where he got the money from. The hero tells the manager that he wanted to tell him something. The manager replies that he was simply worried about the hero, since he did not answer the phone. The hero says that now he won't have to worry as he is resigning from the company and starts leaving. The employee looks after him in fascination and thinks that she had never noticed before that he was handsome. After this, events take place in the Central Intelligence Bureau. There the girl says that they have suspicions that the Spear Master may also be an alien. She says the Spear Master has not been known to commit any other crimes. One of the employees accusingly says that the girl is trying to send him away, and that the Spear Master needs to be captured regardless of who he is. The girl salutes and agrees. As everyone leaves the meeting room, she looks at the screen with a recording of the previous alien attack. She wonders how the hero was able to defeat such a strong alien. She wondered who he was and where to start looking for him. After this, events unfold in the evening, on a crowded city street. Chan and the main character are sitting at a table and happily eating kebab. Chan says he doesn't know what happened to the guy, but he's happy for his success. The hero says that he himself is glad, and that he will finally be able to treat Chan after so many years. Chan invites the hero to propose to his old love. Since he has become rich, the hero is embarrassed and not sure whether to do this. He remembers the girl and thinks about whether she is still waiting for him. His memories are interrupted by a system notification that says a new Beastman-type alien has been spotted. The hero jumps up and loudly asks if the Beastman is really in Shanghai now. His friend worriedly asks if he has had too much to drink. Then the events take place in Shanghai, in an expensive hotel with a huge aquarium. There, one of the visitors says that it is a great honor for them to have the chairman attend the summit. The girl asks what the chairman's plans are for today, and he replies that, unfortunately, he has a meeting to discuss investment plans. The girl replies that if he wants to talk about anything other than investments, she will be in her room. Meanwhile, some movement is visible in the aquarium. In the aquarium, a huge silhouette of a sea monster appears behind the unsuspecting guests. The action takes place at night. A man enters a puddle and there is a splash of water. The cleaner complains that the water was last changed a long time ago. There is a huge body of water around it. He wonders where all the fish in the pond went. He throws food into the water and is surprised when no one comes to eat. With a splash, the food begins to slowly sink into the water. The janitor doesn't have time to react when suddenly a tentacle wraps around his neck. He screams as he is pulled into the depths by an unknown creature. He drowns and suffocates, immobilized by the tentacle. Hotel guests are visible in front of the aquarium. Calm music plays in the hall, people communicate with each other in a relaxed atmosphere. The cleaner knocks on the glass and screams, asking for salvation, but no one hears him. The creature pulls him towards him, and finally he falls silent. Meanwhile, the main character climbed to the tower, the highest point in the city. The guy tells the system that he thought the system could easily determine the alien's location. The system says that this monster is unusual and that it opens its eggs into the body of victims, so it is difficult to find. The system says that to find it you need to process a lot of data. The hero complains that he will have to fight all the people with monster eggs. The system disapproves that his skills were not given to him to make him feel like a superhero. The system says he needs to destroy all parasite carriers at the station to stop the spread. The hero says that he wants to do the strategy himself this time. He thinks there must be a simpler way to deal with this. He calls the police. The guy tells the operator that there is an alien in the city who is spreading parasites. The police decide it's a prank. The hero shouts that this is true, and that new monsters will emerge from all the infected, and that the number of infected has already reached 100. The hero hears beeps when the police hang up his call. The cameraman complains that the schoolchildren are making up nonsense. Commander Zhao comes to the police station. She is welcomed. The cameraman notices how beautiful she is and looks at her in fascination. Meanwhile, the police say that they have the situation with the aliens under control. At the same time, the main character is driving towards the city airport in his new Jeep. The system gives him information about the first infected person, a scientist from America. The hero asks if it is necessary to kill them. The system says that after infection, they are no longer human, and the hero's soft-heartedness can lead to disaster. The hero nervously grabs the steering wheel, but doesn't answer. At the airport, the man's friends say goodbye to him. This is the infected person the system pointed to. He says goodbye to the girls and begins to move away from them. Suddenly he stops in his tracks. His face begins to change. The man is perplexed and does not understand what is happening to him. He begins to scream and spew green liquid from his mouth. People nearby get scared and start running away in panic. Someone suggests calling an ambulance. The hero nervously thinks that if the man is torn apart, it will be too late. The girl screams for the infected man not to come near her. The hero jumps with a spear towards the infected while he asks for help. The hero strikes the man in the chest and he begins to sink to the ground with a loud crunch. The girl, in shock, asks if the man is dead. He lies on the ground motionless. The system says the carrier was killed, and now there are 5 more left. The hero doesn't like that he had to kill a man. The audience notices that this is the master of the spear. They start talking about how the spear master killed a man and start calling the police. The hero jumps out the window, breaking the glass. People see him running away. The Intelligence Bureau headquarters reports that the spear master has already killed 3 civilians. The girl gets angry and says that they thought he was lying low, but in fact he went to another city. She slams her fist on the table in irritation. She tells the reconnaissance team to look for the spear master on the surveillance cameras. They salute. She tells the others to follow her and heads out the door. The new one says that the spear master committed a series of brutal murders and is now wanted. There is a furious debate online that the spear master is not the hero he was thought to be. The hero runs away from the police into an alley with a lantern. He sighs with relief. He says he's finally been able to break away from the police, but the system says there's 2 bad news for him. She explains that the hero on the internet is now called a maniac with a spear. The hero is upset and says that he has not broken any rules before, but now he is in the federal wanted list for a series of murders. The hero pays for the bike rental from his phone. The system asks why he needs it. The system says that he does not yet know the second news, and the hero asks what it is. The system responds that there is less than an hour left until the next parasite sowing. Further action takes place in the hotel. A young guy hugs a girl. The girl says that he is impudent today, and he starts kissing her. The girl tells him to stop. He asks what is happening to her when he sees the change in her face. She replies that she doesn't feel well, and her face begins to turn green and change. The guy panics and pushes the girl away from him. She falls and asks for help. Splashes of green liquid are visible around. The girl screams as a spear pierces her through. The main character pulls the spear out of her body. The hero asks for forgiveness. The guy next to him starts screaming so that he doesn't come near him. The hero makes a dash towards the guy and says that he must die too. He wants to strike, but someone attacks him with a kick. It turns out that it is the commander who is protecting him from moving. The hero looks in surprise at the unexpectedly appeared girl. She and several other police officers aim their pistols at the hero. The girl demands to give up. The hero is surrounded by several police officers who point their guns at him. The hero gloomily thinks about what to do, because if the carrier is left alive, he will kill all the police. He decides that he doesn't have time to think about it and decisively rushes at the enemy with a spear. The police declare fire and start shooting at the main character. The hero runs to the infected guy under police fire. The hero sees police bullets flying at him and curses. He begins to rotate his spear with great speed and reflects projectiles flying at him. However, he misses a couple of bullets that hit his side. He sinks to one knee and makes sounds of pain. The police declare a ceasefire because the perpetrator has been wounded. The system says his body is strengthened and regeneration is accelerated, but bullets can still hurt him. The hero complains of severe pain. The commander runs up to him and raises his leg to strike. She screams for him to put his hands behind his head. The hero notices that she has a huge impact speed and wonders what technique she has. The girl kicks him, but the hero repels her blow. Suddenly they both hear a loud roar. The girl looks in surprise in the direction where he is coming from. The guy also looks there and thinks displeasedly that they have finished the game. There, the infected guy ruptures, and green liquid begins to come out of him. A monstrous appendage shoots out of his torso. The guy yells loudly. With a hiss, a monster emerges from the victim's body. The police curse in shock, and the monster fully appears to the surface. The hero declares that a new monster has been born in front of them and tells them to make way. The girl looks at the monster in surprise. The monster suddenly begins to run with a loud hiss. It jumps on one of the police officers as she yells. He attacks the girl and successfully attacks her. The commander confidently says that part of the squad should attack the alien, and the rest should protect the inhabitants. The police begin firing at the monster. Many shots are heard. The cartridges fall with a clang to the ground. Without causing any damage to the monster, the police shout that the bullets did not harm him. The shots only angered the creature, and it began to aggressively hiss towards its opponents. It begins to scream and makes another lunge towards the next victim. The monster bites the policemen as they retreat in fear. The hero thinks that everything is bad for them, even if there are no bullets for the newborn monster. The monster jumps from one policeman to the next, biting them. The hero thinks that he must have a weak spot. The commander tells the others to disperse and rushes to attack. There is a click from her heel and a hidden blade appears. She does a jump and somersault in the air above the battlefield. Below, the police are unsuccessfully trying to do something to oppose the monster. She comes down hard on the monster and wounds it with her heeled blade. The monster screams in pain. Green liquid flows from its wound. This liquid gets on the girl's uniform and she swears. She realizes that the creature's blood can corrode clothing, and some of the fabric has already been corroded. The monster roars and jumps at the girl, preparing to strike. The hero says displeasedly that now she has definitely angered the monster and rushes to attack. He grabs the girl and dodges the monster's blow. The hero thinks that now he understands where his weak point is. The hero shouts at the creature and pathetically tells it to taste his spear. He makes a wide swing, attacking the monster with his spear. The strike hits the opponent and successfully cuts them, killing them in one hit. The hero thinks that his spear is more effective than bullets. The commander looks at the monster's body and asks what kind of monster it is, and who all the protagonist's victims were. He replies that they all carried the eggs of these creatures within themselves. The commander thinks that he is not a killer of civilians. She thinks that if she had not left him, the police would have survived. The hero tells the girl that he recommends calling for reinforcements, since there are carriers and their uterus left in the hotel. He goes towards the hotel and tells her to tell everyone that monsters have a weak spot on the back of their heads. The commander radios for all units to stop hunting the spear master and requests reinforcements. She is told that reinforcements are already on the way for her. Reinforcements arrive and 2 helicopters fly toward her. A gold star symbol is visible on helicopters. The girl notices in surprise that this is a detachment that reports directly to the general. At the same time, the hero enters the hotel, and the residents begin to run away in panic. The girls say with fear that a maniac with a spear came here to kill. The system noticed 6 infected people and marked them for the hero. The hero thinks that he is sorry, but he will have to do it. The villagers run away and the hero attacks one of them with his spear. Screams of pain and cries for mercy are heard from everywhere. The hero killed several people and headed to the elevator. The survivors look after him with fear. He's standing in the elevator, and the system says that he wasn't as pathetic as she thought. The hero says that the system should not be shy in praising him. He adds that he expects a good reward for completing this task. The system says that if he failed this task, he would suffer baldness. The hero decides that he must pull himself together to avoid this. The system says that carriers have been found on several floors, which he must deal with and then work on the uterus. Lifeless bodies of people float in a huge aquarium. In the depths you can see the silhouette of a huge sea monster with tentacles. There were still people in the hall in front of the aquarium. The monster says that his children want to eat and approaches the glass. The guests notice that there is a monster in the water and begin to scream in panic. The monster hits the glass with its claw, a network of cracks begins to spread across it. The guests shout that the glass will crack and the monster will break through. The monster makes several more blows to the glass, breaking it in several places. The guests shout that the glass will not hold up and begin to run away in panic. The glass finally breaks, flooding the room. People in the water panic and call for help. Underwater, tentacles move towards panicking victims. The monster attacks residents who fall into the water, killing them. Water pours out of the doors and begins to flood the corridor along which people are running. The tentacles begin to grab and pull into the water. The main character is running at the other end of the corridor. He thinks that there is a banquet hall ahead and heads there. He steps into someone's blood and stops when he notices it. He looks around and sees the scattered corpses of people. He stands in shock at what he sees. A monster appears next to him, holding a girl who begs for death. The monster is huge and has many tentacles. It hisses loudly. The hero understands that this is the womb of monsters. The system identifies the queen as a creature from the chaos dimension and assigns her a danger level of C. The hero thinks that her turn has finally come and is waiting for the monster to attack. Instead of attacking, the uterus turns away from the hero. The hero is indignant and tells her not to ignore him. The hero says that in this case he will take the first step. He makes several wall jumps and heads towards the monster. He swings his spear and prepares to attack the enemy. He asks if she is hungry and furiously attacks the monster with his spear. He hits the monster's head with a blow. There is a loud impact sound. But the blow does not cause any damage to the monster, since the protagonist's spear cannot pierce its skin. The hero curses displeasedly when he sees that his attacks are ineffective. He wonders what the monster's head is made of. Suddenly the queen begins to swing her clawed paw to strike the hero. She hits the guy and hits the hero, causing him to fly off. The hero looks at the wound he received and sees how blood gradually appears there after the cut. The hero falls to the ground with a loud sound and flies into a pile of furniture. The monster opens its toothy mouth and begins to hiss aggressively at the main character. In rage, the monster begins to destroy everything around with its blows. Furniture is flying in all directions. The hero thinks that her children were fragile compared to the womb itself. The hero holds his hand to the wound on his body. The system says that the monster's attack was laced with poison, so it will take him at least half an hour to recover. The hero notices with displeasure that he cannot take so long, since in half an hour she will be able to spread new parasites. A helicopter appears in the sky. The hero looks at him and thinks that reinforcements have probably arrived. The hero decides to buy time and lure the monster to the 3rd floor. He starts to run, and the monster tries to hit him with its tentacles. The hero jumps back and successfully escapes from the attack of the monster's tentacles, which almost hit him. He jumps to the 3rd floor and says that he can easily get away from the monster. He runs onto the roof of the hotel and abruptly stops there. From his side he hears an order not to move. He turns to see who is talking. A squad of police officers stands in front of him. They tell the hero to lower his weapon and aim their pistols at him. The hero says that he is not their enemy, but they do not listen and again order him to lower his weapon. The hero swears and realizes that he does not have time to explain anything, since the uterus is already behind him. A tentacle appears behind the hero and he raises his spear to attack. He tells the police to shoot. The police scream and start shooting at the hero when they see him raise his spear. Bullets begin to fly towards the main character, but he manages to react. The hero leans on his spear and jumps up. Behind him, a monstrous queen crawls out onto the roof. The bullets that were intended for the main character hit the monster, but bounce off the tough skin. The police are in fear, they do not understand what this creature is. The hero thinks that this is his chance to attack the enemy. While the queen is distracted by a volley of shells, the hero jumps on her with a spear. He strikes one of the creature's many eyes, choosing to wound the brain through the sockets. His blow hits the target and the green blood of the monster splashes from the wound. It emits a heart-rending scream that can be heard hundreds of meters around. The hero does not understand why the enemy is still alive if he was hit in the brain by a spear blow. The hero irritably thinks that he is already running out of strength due to the poisoned wound. The police are preparing a volley of grenade launchers. They aim at the monster and prepare to shoot. The hero thinks that grenade launchers are a good option, although a tank would be preferable. He thinks that the shooters don't care whether the explosion hits the hero. The police start shooting and the hero decides that he needs to get out of the grenade launcher's affected area. He jumps off the monster's head. The shells hit the target and there is a huge explosion with a deafening sound. The hero looks at the explosion zone, where clouds of smoke flow. He can't see anything because of the smoke. The policeman orders the others to cease fire and remain vigilant. Suddenly, tentacles burst forward from the smoke screen and head towards the police. They begin to scream as the tentacles grab and envelop them. The head of a monster appears from the smoke and loudly hisses at the police. The monster shoves one of the policemen into his mouth and says that he is very tasty. Her victim screams. The hero curses and begins to rapidly move towards the enemy. He pushes the police aside to rush forward and protects them from tentacle attacks. He begins to rapidly attack and reflect numerous tentacle attacks on the police. However, other tentacles hit the police. The hero thinks that he cannot cope alone, since there are many tentacles. The sound of a helicopter and a cry for retreat are heard. Another cop yells that they need to hold their position because the helicopter has arrived with reinforcements. Meanwhile, the monster destroys the defenseless infantrymen one by one. The commander is in the helicopter. She surveys the battlefield from above. The hero notices her and takes notice of her arrival. The helicopter begins firing machine guns at the monster. The bullets hit the enemy and some cause damage by piercing the skin. The helicopter continues to fire and the monster hisses and gets angry about it. The hero asks the system why the uterus began to look at the helicopter, and wonders if she has problems with intelligence. The system replies that for a monster it is very smart and even for a human it is not stupid. The hero asks when the next parasite spread will begin, and the system says in 5 minutes. The hero swears intensely and shouts to the police to remove the helicopter from here. The queen begins to walk towards the helicopter, each step leaving cracks in the concrete beneath her. The hero shouts that she wants to escape by helicopter. The queen jumps from the roof towards the helicopter. He receives a strong blow from the commander in the helicopter. She hears another loud bang and looks at the dashboard. The queen in the air holds onto the helicopter with her paws and hangs in the air. The hero thinks that if she starts giving birth to parasites right above the city will be over. The helicopter begins to lose control from the enormous weight of the uterus. The hero thinks that this is the last chance to stop her and decisively jumps in the direction of the monster. He begins to fly towards the monster and the helicopter. While flying, he sees the queen wrapping her tentacles around her own belly. The hero is surprised to see this. Several tentacles are sent forward to attack the hero. The hero repels the attack and wonders why she doesn't attack with all the tentacles at once. He realizes that her belly is her weak point and heads in that direction. The hero performs the technique of striking the emerald dragon on the belly of the uterus and pierces its skin. The spear pierces the monster's flesh deeply, causing the monster to scream loudly. The monster screams, but does not stop holding the helicopter. Streams of blood pour out of him. The helicopter loses its balance and hits a building with its propeller blades. The police are watching the situation, not understanding what is happening there. The helicopter crashes into the wall and there is a huge explosion with a deafening sound. There is a girl in the hotel whimpering quietly on her bed. She cries and records a video where she says that she is in a hotel with a maniac with a spear who has already killed many people and says that she does not know if she will live until the morning. She asks her friends to give her more likes and says that this may be her last request in life. She hears an explosion outside her window and gets scared. She asks what it was. Suddenly the window breaks from the blow of a spear and the hero flies in with a girl in his arms. He tells the system to put away the spear and gently puts Commander Zhao down. The girl who was in the room is hiding. She recognizes the hero as a maniac with a spear. She doesn't understand why he flew in here with a girl in his arms, but she's very scared. The hero asks Zhao Ling how she is, but receives no answer. The girl who is hiding is afraid to give herself away with sound and covers her mouth with her hand. The hero says that he cannot bring her to consciousness and asks the system how it will assess her state of health. The system says that the girl was badly injured and that she has no chance of a full recovery. The hero asks if nothing can be done. The system says that it can be helped by miracle pills, which the hero can receive for completing the task with the uterus. The hero asks if she can be saved with pills. The system replies that they will save her, but notes that this is a very rare item, and it would be more profitable to keep them for themselves. The hero gets irritated and tells the system to quickly hand them over to save the girl. For completing the task, the system gives a reward in the form of money in the amount of 10 million, as well as a new skill. His spear also upgrades and becomes a devil's spear. It changes its appearance. The hero triumphs, and his new level is called Second-Rate Master. In real life, without the system interface, the hero looks stupid. He sits and makes enthusiastic comments. Seeing this, the girl decides that he is a completely distraught psychopath. The hero selects a miracle pill in the interface. She appears in his hand. His hands begin to emit a green glow and the pill appears above him. The girl does not understand what he is doing and assumes that it is witchcraft. She decides that this needs to be captured and takes out her phone to film what is happening. The hero points the glowing pill towards the unconscious Zhao Ling. Green energy begins to absorb into the girl's body with a buzzing sound. The hero looks at her and thinks that the pill worked. The girl begins to breathe evenly, and the hero decided that now she will be fine. The hero says that he cured her and hopes that she will no longer try to kill him. A girl is filming all this, and comments about the master of the spear come to her stream. The hero then jumps through the broken window and disappears. During the flight, he thinks that now he has lost the feeling that someone is watching him. A fire is burning near the helicopter crash site, with civilians and firefighters running around. A fireman shouts for people to evacuate quickly. Police lead people away from the scene of the accident. Everyone runs away from there. The hero watches from afar what is happening near the helicopter crash site. He thinks that given the force of the explosion, now everyone will consider him dead. The system says that it will take him 2 weeks to fully recover and advises him to find a place where no one will disturb him. The guy says that his new villa will be suitable for this and leaves the battlefield. The next day, the hero drives a jeep into the prestigious private sector of the city. At the entrance, a security guard greets him as he drives by. The hero happily thinks that he could not even imagine that he would one day be able to live in such a luxurious place. The hero stands in front of his own villa and admires it. This is a huge building in a modern architectural style. The hero enters the living room and says that Fat Chan did not disappoint in choosing a house, and that this is not a house, but a real dream come true. The hero examines the interior of the house. Everything in it is new and sparkles with cleanliness. The hero examines the windows and chandeliers of the house and admires their quality. He lies down on the sofa and doesn't know what to do now. The hero thinks that he doesn't feel at home here, because everything here is too ideal. He takes the remote control and decides to fill the emptiness of the house with the sound of the TV. The TV shows the news. They talk about what happened at the hotel, talk about the huge number of victims and state that an investigation is still underway to clarify the details. The hero mutters dissatisfiedly that no one is talking about how he defeated the monster and says that the reporters are not monitoring the situation closely enough. The hero looks at the ceiling and thinks about how tired he is after everything that happened. He passively looks at the ceiling and does nothing. Gradually he begins to fall asleep, his eyes close. The sounds of footsteps of a whole crowd of people are heard. There is a loud, repeated knock on the door of the protagonist's villa. The hero wakes up and doesn't know who decided to come to him. The knocking on the door doesn't stop. He heads to the door and says that he is on his way to open it. From behind the door, someone calls him a maniac with a spear and asks if he is home. Lots of people come through the door. They ask if he earned his villa by killing people. The hero holds the door against the crowd and replies that they were monsters, not people. His window breaks and something flies in. This object falls to the ground with a thud. It turns out to be a creepy human head. She talks to the hero and asks why he did this. The hero gets scared and looks at the head. The head says that he had a family and children, and he killed him. The hero, in despair, says that it was for the sake of people and to save them. He hears another knock on another window. The monster queen he killed appears there. People start calling him a murderer in unison. People begin to climb out of his door and say that he is a murderer. Dozens of hands are reaching out to him. The hero is told that he must pay for what he has done. The hero, in a panic, shouts to the people around him not to come near him, but they continue to reach out to him. The hero screams as a whirlpool of arms swallows him entirely. Only then does he wake up, still on his sofa in the villa. He jumps up from the couch when he says it was a nightmare. He breathes out a sigh of relief, realizing that it wasn't real. At this time, a notification arrives on his phone. The hero takes his smartphone in his hand and reads the message he received. There they discuss the upcoming alumni meeting in correspondence. The hero smiles, although he considers the participants in the correspondence not very smart people. The hero gets up and decides that since he now has a vacation, he can go home for a while. He writes in correspondence that he will come to the alumni meeting. Nobody is particularly happy about this. The hero thinks that he hasn't seen any of them for a long time. The hero remembers one of the girls, Zhang Yixiao, and wonders if she will come to the alumni meeting. The hero rides in his jeep to the village and carefreely hums a song along the way. The system says that he has neither an ear for music nor a voice, so his singing only torments him. The hero replies that he is in a good mood and that he can't wait to finally see Zhang Yixiao. He tells the system that he needs to heal his wounds anyway. The system says that he has two options, a sweet school friend and a strict commander. The hero is indignant and asks why the commander, whom he saw only once, would come. The system chuckles maliciously. At the intelligence bureau, Zhang Ling asks if she is sure she wants to return to work so quickly after being injured. She replies that she is fine. She thinks that she doesn't remember what happened. The commander recalls how she lost control of the helicopter. She then remembers the explosion, but can't remember anything specific. She thinks that it is strange that after all this there was not a scratch on her. The commander asks what kind of video her subordinate wanted to show her. He hands over a tablet with a video. The video shows green light flowing around the hero. The girl is surprised by this. She reads the comments that support the spear master and understands why there is no damage to her body. She thinks contentedly about the fact that he saved her, and not only her, but everyone in general. She is asked whether it is worth blocking the distribution of this video on the internet. She replies that it is not necessary and that there is no need to censor the discussion of this topic. Her ward nervously says that this is contrary to the general's orders. The girl strictly tells him to follow the order, and she takes all the consequences upon herself. He agrees and leaves. The girl is in a good mood. She thinks that she and the spear master, as it turns out, are on the same side. The hero gets out of his jeep and thinks that he will finally see the girl. He wears expensive clothes and perfume. The system asks why he dressed up like that, and whether he is preparing to propose to the girl. The hero is indignant and says that this is nonsense. At the entrance to the building a young guy calls him. He waves his hand to the hero and calls him by name. This is Ning Chen. He asks the hero how he is doing. The hero approaches an acquaintance, who turns out to be a former headman, and says that he still looks like a nerd. He says that he is a simple teacher in the village, and notices that the hero has already managed to buy himself a car. The hero is embarrassed when the headman praises him. The guy is escorted forward. The headman says that they have already waited for him. He greets old acquaintances who ask if he still remembers them. The hero looks around the room. He looks around the visit looking for Zhang Yixiao. One of his acquaintances asks who he is looking for, but immediately adds that he knows who he is looking for. The hero asks if Zhang Yixiao has come yet. The headman says that she is unlikely to appear today. She knows about the reunion, but has been very busy lately. The hero gets upset, but tries not to show it. Then another friend turns to him. He says that he has nothing to do with Zhao Yixiao and should forget her. This is Kun Kuei. He says that the main character is not worthy of her, and that she was the most attractive girl in the class. The hero thinks that he hates this guy. He recalls that throughout his school years he pestered Zhao Yixiao, but to no avail. The hero approaches the bully aggressively. Things are heading towards a fight, and those around them understand this. The headman stands between the two guys, and says that they are having a holiday, and so that Kun Kuei does not spoil the mood. He pushes the headman aside and says that he has his own scores to settle with the school, since it occupies his land. The hero gets angry and sternly tells Kun Kue to leave the headman behind. Kun Kue grabs the hero by the collar and tells him not to interfere if he doesn't want to get it. He laughs at the guy's clothes and thinks they are very cheap. The hero grins and doesn't answer. He hits the bully in the chin so that the cigarette flies out of his mouth. From the force of the blow, Kun Kue flies several meters away and falls to the ground with a loud sound. Those around him were surprised when they saw how the hero dealt with the bully. People in the next room are trying to understand what happened between them. At the same time, the creaking of doors opening is heard. People notice that someone has arrived. A girl enters the room, confidently stepping over the bully who had been knocked to the floor. This turns out to be Zhang Yixiao, the protagonist's old love. The hero blushes, is embarrassed and looks at the girl. Kun Kue, lying on the floor, tells her to be careful with the hero, since it's as if the devil has possessed him. The girl says that Kun Kue probably bullied him. The hero hesitantly approaches the girl and awkwardly greets her. People around are watching what is happening. The girl answers the greeting and asks how the hero is doing. The hero's heart begins to beat faster. She looks at the guy and says that he hasn't changed at all. He continues to blush. He replies that Zhao Yixiao remains the same. The hero thinks that everything has stopped for him. In the background, people around are chatting among themselves. The hero does not hear conversations or the noise of glasses. For the rest of the evening, he only looked at Zhao Yixiao and did not pay attention to the rest. Next, the action takes place at night, near the village in which the main character is located. At the cemetery nearby, something begins to happen. Blue ghostly energy begins to emanate from the soil near the coffin with a quiet humming sound. Suddenly, a human hand bursts out of the grave soil. It turns out to be the alien Xiao Qian. The creature appears to be a girl in traditional attire. Magic lights dance around. The alien looks at the village in the distance and begins to walk in that direction. The girl comes to the house where the light is still on. In the window she sees a guy looking at the phone. He doesn't notice her. The guy drinks beer and happily watches obscene videos. Voices are heard from his phone. The door to his room opens a little, but the guy doesn't notice it. The shadow of an alien girl appears on the floor of his room. The guy asks who she is. She replies that she is lost and asks if she can stay the night with him. He blushes and readily accepts the girl at his place. She sits on his bed and says it's time for them to go to bed. The guy looks lovingly at the alien girl. The guy thinks that he is incredibly lucky and begins to approach the girl. He says he will be gentle with her. She lies down, smiles at the guy and calls him young master. She thinks that all men are really the same. Suddenly, a man's scream is heard as the alien changes shape and attacks him. People begin to disperse from the meeting of classmates. They are already a little drunk. Some suggest going somewhere else. The hero is surprised that so many people came and that everyone had a good time. The headman agrees with him. The main character, Zhang Yixiao and the headman are standing next to each other. An awkward silence fell between them. The headman says that he is transferring the girl to the responsibility of the hero, and it's time for him to run to the bus. The hero asks if he needs a ride. The headman refuses and says that he will get there himself. He quickly runs away from the couple. The hero looks at Zhang Yixiao and she looks at him. They don't say anything and are embarrassed. They begin to blush, unable to say anything to each other. The hero awkwardly invites the girl to go already and she just as awkwardly agrees. The headman walks down the street and thinks that he is jealous of this couple. He looks at the main character's car as it drives away and thinks about when he will be able to find his soulmate. He decides that he is dreaming a lot, since he is a simple rural teacher, without a house and a car. He decides to go home and start preparing for his lessons. Suddenly, a girl slumps to the ground in front of him, making the headman a little scared. He asks worriedly what's wrong with her while the girl reaches out her hand to him. This girl looks pitifully at the guy and asks for help. In reality she is an alien. Meanwhile, the hero and Zhao Yixiao arrive at Yixiao's house. The girl says that she is surprised that the main character, after so many years, remembers where she lives. The hero remembers how he once waited for her at the house every day before school. He even remembers her home phone number, but he never dared to dial it. He notices that the girl is still using the keychain he gave her. They both start talking at the same time and interrupt each other. The girl tells him to be the first to say what he wanted. The main character shakes the girl's face, which makes her even more embarrassed and addresses her by name. He confidently says that he likes her and that he wants to be with her. The girl smiles and blushes. She is waiting for a kiss from the main character. He leans in to kiss Zhang Yixiao, but the system suddenly intervenes and has a message for him. The hero ignores the system, and it flies out of the car. The system says that it will come back later because the notification is not too urgent. The alien girl and the headman go into his apartment. He apologizes for the fact that everything is very modest with him. The girl says that it's already late and suggests that he go to bed already. The headman tells her to lie down on the bed, and he will make his bed on the floor. The girl is surprised because she expected something different from the man. She thinks displeasedly that they are already in his bedroom, and that the guy is acting like a saint. Both go to bed, the girl on the bed, the headman on the floor. When the headman falls asleep, the alien wakes up and decides that it is time. Her eyes glow ominously. Long and sharp claws grow on her hands. The girl approaches the headman and decides that he needs to suck all the life force out of him. She reaches out to him with her claws. Suddenly the guy turns over and starts talking in his sleep, addressing the students. The girl gets scared and jumps back into bed. She lies and thinks about why she was scared. The headman woke up from the noise. He begins to approach the girl, who is pretending to be asleep. She thinks he is finally showing his true self when he reaches out his hand to her. But instead, he covers the girl with a blanket and says that it's cold today. He says that she is poor and that there is pain in her eyes. The girl can't understand what's wrong with this guy. Her eyes begin to close and she gradually falls asleep. Finally, both sleep without moving in the same room. In a dream, the girl remembers that her mother told her that if a man and a woman sleep in the same room, children will appear. She sees the children discussing in surprise that their teacher finally got a girlfriend. The girl turns around, trying to figure out who is talking, and realizes that it was not a dream. She screams and pulls away from the children. Children also scream when they see her. A teacher enters the room, having come running at the sound of screams. He asks what's going on. He shouts why the children are not in class and they run out of the room. He apologizes and sheepishly explains to the girl that they are in the premises of a rural school, and that he is the only teacher here. He says that breakfast is on the table and that he will return after classes. The girl is perplexed. He turns to the children and says that he apparently needs to give them more homework. The girl looks after him. She wonders what elementary school is like and doesn't understand why they are dressed so strangely. A little time later, the teacher thinks that a girl who appeared out of nowhere organically joined his work with children. She played with the children and entertained them in every possible way, and also helped him teach them. She turned out to be very innocent and inexperienced, which surprised the teacher. He had to explain to the girl basic, well-known things. She did not look down on the teacher because of his financial status, unlike most girls. When she played the flute, it seemed to him that he knew her like family, although the girl never talked about her own past. A little later, the teacher came with milk tea, which he wanted to treat the girl to. He thinks she will be happy like a child. As he approaches the house, he sees an ambulance and a crowd of people gathered. There, the woman tells the police that she did not receive any information from the man and decided to visit him, after which she found him in this condition. They believe that the man died on the evening of the 8th. This is hard to believe, since his body had already dried out. Some compare it to the action of the undead. The teacher begins to think and remember about the evening of the 8th. He begins to think that this is the same evening on which he met the girl. He looks at the wrapped, withered body near the ambulance. The dried hand of a corpse can be seen from under the cloth. The teacher is shocked. He cannot believe the obvious result of comparing the dates. Out of shock, he drops his glass of milk tea and it spills onto the asphalt. Ning, still not understanding what was happening, decides to step aside while the doctors carried the injured body into the ambulance. The police at this time tried to find out what was happening. Nina realizes that this is not just a coincidence. The guy begins to suspect that the girl he brought to school is the evil spirits who killed a person. Ning hurries to return to his home to talk with the girl. At this moment, from behind the house, someone starts calling the guy's name. There is a crowd of guys standing near the entrance to the local school. They have already marked the walls with paint for demolition. A guy with an elderly man at the head beckoned Nina to talk. Ning Chen was confused as to why Kong Kuei and the chairman wanted to see him. The guy with a cast on his neck mockingly decides to warn Nina that tomorrow he plans to start work on the site of the school and will allow everything to be demolished. Ning, seeing how some guy continues to paint the walls, asks again indignantly. Ning takes Kun by the shoulders and shouts asking the guy to come to his senses, because this is a school for children. Kun lifts Nina by the shirt with a slight movement of his hand. He says that he doesn't care about the guy's opinion and asks him to get out of the area. With an ominous smile, the guy adds that otherwise he will bury him alive with all the children from this school. Kun lowers the guy, holding him. Ning decides to ask the chairman to come to his senses, because this is the only place where children from poor families could study. The chairman with a gloomy face reminds Ning that tomorrow the construction of a sanatorium will begin on this site and the guy's opinion is also not important to him. The chairman slowly moves away. Ning tries once again to get the man's attention. Kun at this time tries to tease the guy by adding that he knows about the girl in Nina's house. Licking Kun, he comes closer to Ning and clearly hints that he will think if he gives the girl for the night. Once again, mockingly, he finishes the sentence by saying that he will think about leaving the outdoor toilet. Ning stands in a stupor. The guy clenches his fists tightly in his helplessness and anger, but he does not dare answer Kun. As night approaches, Ning returns home. He asks the girl not to be afraid of what is happening. Sitting on the bed and holding the girl's hand, the guy with a smile asks to stay with Zhang Yixiao temporarily, and as soon as he solves all the problems, he will immediately take her. The girl looks at Nina, not understanding why the guy decides to leave her alone. Ning tries to explain to Xiao Qian the reason, but the girl, without listening to the end, lowers her head. She clarifies that the reason is her deception. Ning looks questioningly at the girl. The guy roughly guesses that Xiao is the monster who killed the man. The girl, through tears, tries to explain that she is not really a person and she has to suck the life force out of men. Covering her face and wiping away tears, she adds that it was her grandmother who forced her to do this. After all, from childhood, Xiao was taught that if she did not kill, she would be killed herself. Ning gently wipes the tears from Zhao's eyes. He asks the girl to calm down, because he understands her. Holding hands, the girl asks to forgive her and not to kick her out of the house. Ning continues to console the girl, saying that he does not blame her. Ning, with a serious face, asks the girl to leave, because his house will soon become unsafe. Holding the girl by the shoulders and becoming much closer, the guy asks to believe him and temporarily move until he solves all the problems. The girl cries again. Xiao asks to listen to her only request. The girl smiles through her tears. She asks to become Nina's betrothed. After all, she is ready to wait for a guy all her life. Ning smilingly accepts the girl's request. He himself liked Xiao. The girl hugs the guy. Ning adds that they agreed on this. There were several knocks on the door. Yixiao gets up from his chair and decides to go to the door. Xiao stood outside the door, looking at the floor in confusion. Yixiao says with a smile that she was waiting for the girl, inviting her to come to her apartment. Having closed the door behind Xiao, Yixiao immediately decides to ask where her brother Ning Chen is, to which the girl reports that the guy has business and cannot come to them yet. Looking away, Xiao adds that Ning is not actually her brother, but her betrothed. Yixiao puts his hands on Zhao's shoulders with a smile, saying that she understood this right away. Opening the door to the next room, Yixiao invites the girl to go to bed early and go to the city tomorrow to unwind. Xiao is looking around the room at this time. Xiao, seeing the night sky, misses Ning Chen. She was only worried about him at the moment. The next day began with Sun actively waving his broom. He called this technique the secret devil spear technique. At this time, the woman continues to hang her clothes to dry. In the background, Song continues to swing the broom. He believed that this method would maintain his shape. Raising a broom above his head, the guy joyfully announced that the internet was waiting for him to return soon, because he could not disappoint his fans. The guy's thoughts were fixated on something else. Sun slowly takes the phone out of his pocket. Blushing, the guy looks at the photo with the new girl. Sun couldn't be happier that he was finally able to start dating his love. A woman takes a small cat mask from a basket of wet clothes. Sun's mother believes that such things are the reason why her son still does not have a girlfriend. Sun angrily takes his cat mask from his hands, telling her not to touch his things. The woman calmly hands over his mask. Sun shows his mother the phone, adding that it has long been in high esteem among girls. The woman stood in bewilderment. The guy decides to count on his fingers which girls already value him as a person, but Sun could only remember 2 girls. The woman, having looked at the girls' photographs, became embarrassed and immediately asked to bring her to her home. Sun's mother was already planning to marry the guy in the coming year. The guy didn't quite understand which second girl his mother was talking about, because in the photo there was only him and Yixiao. The guy turns the phone to see for himself. There was a photo on the phone of Yixiao and Xiao. They posted a photo of them eating ice cream together. Sun decides to make sure he's showing the right photo. He calls Xiao Ning's girlfriend. The system decides to add that it forgot to notify him of an important point. Having flown closer to the guy's ear, the system explains that Xiao is not an ordinary girl, but in fact an alien. Sun was shocked by this news. Hearing this, the woman strokes her son's head. She doesn't understand what alien Sun is talking about. The guy's phone receives a call. Moving to the side, Sun picks up the phone. With a serious face, he asks if the girl is okay, to which Yixiao says that everything is fine. The girl, being in the city center, is still trying to find Xiao with her eyes. She explains to Sun that she lost Xiao and can't reach Ning. Sun, assuming that this could become a problem, suddenly starts running. He assures Yixiao not to worry because he will find him. Jumping into his car, he simultaneously warns his mother that he is leaving on business. Sitting behind the wheel, Sun had a sea of thoughts. He reassured himself that Ning was responsible and would not allow something like this to happen. There were already several special forces near the school, building demolition machines. Kun, shouting at his subordinates, explains that this rental cost him dearly, asking at the same time the question of who will pay for all this. The workers stood at a loss as to what to say. The workers tried to tell Kun something. One of the guys added that there was still a person in the building and they couldn't demolish the school. One of the workers, pointing his finger at the teenager, suggests that this person has already left the building and they can proceed to demolish the school. A teenager standing next to the children tried to calm everyone down, because he hoped that their teacher Ning would solve this problem and they could start classes elsewhere. With the school in the background, the teenager adds that their teacher is already finishing collecting all the school supplies and they can study anywhere. The girl standing nearby was crying at what was happening. At this time, Ning was still inside the school. He was finishing collecting all his things while putting them in his large backpack. Ning, looking around the room, tried to remember what he might have forgotten. There were still several books he needed on the table. Ning notices that there are markers left on the next table. He decides to take them too. One of the workers asks Kun to double-check the building for the presence of people and then finally begin work. Kun was outraged and then began to climb onto the bulldozer, preparing to demolish the building. The worker asks Kun one last time to stop. The guy does not obey and then slowly begins to head towards the school. Having arrived at a fairly close distance, he swings the ladle at the window through which Ning could be seen. The guy was already heading out of the school. But Kun doesn't notice the guy, so he breaks out the window with all his might. The fragments fly towards Ning, causing the guy's glasses to break. A strong blow was heard and the building quickly collapsed. The children pay attention to the huge lump of dust. The children, realizing what happened, begin to call their teacher. Many of them are crying. The dust begins to clear and a man's hand appears from under the rubble holding a bag of crayons. The entire building was completely collapsed. Two women outside the city look at the smoke rising into the sky. One of the women decides to ask what happened there, to which she received an answer about the demolition of the old school. Xiao is standing on a pillar in the center of the village, her face very angry. The women continued to discuss the demolition of the school. They could not understand where children from poor families would study. Xiao abruptly pushes away from the pillar and quickly moves towards the school. Women with bags on their backs were very surprised by this. They did not immediately understand what had happened. The pillar breaks from such force and falls to the ground. The women screamed in fear. Xiao, already moving along the roofs of houses, continued to head towards the school. She had a bad feeling. The excavator was still near the broken part of the building. The roof and part of the wall slid down, leaving a huge hole in the middle of the school. The teenager and the children sat next to their teacher Ning. They cried from such a loss. Ning lay motionless. There were numerous scratches and broken glasses on his face. The children tried to cheer him up by saying that they would definitely start doing all the assigned homework. The angry chairman stood aside. He approached Kun with questions about how they would solve such a problem. The guy was nervous and didn't know what to do about it. The employee added that a large number of people already know about this. Kun, continuing to be nervous, chews his finger. He was thinking about how to hush up this incident. Looking at one of the workers, an idea comes to his mind on how to solve this problem. The man looked questioningly at Kun. Kun throws the worker to the floor with all his might, kicking him. The guy calls him a murderer, continuing to blame the man. He believes that it was he who did not follow precautionary measures, which is why all this happened. Leaning over the worker with a malicious smile, he decides to give him a chance, hinting that he has time to get rid of the corpse and then they will not testify against him. The man looked at Kun in fear. He did not understand what to do in this situation. Kneeling in front of Kun, he screams for mercy, because he did not want to go to prison. Bowing his head in front of Kun's shoes, he adds that he is a decent person and is not able to do such a thing. Kun with a tired face turns to the worker's foreman. He asks the man to explain exactly how this is done. The foreman looks at the crying children with a grin. He silently waves Kun away. The teenagers and children were outraged that their teachers were being taken away by unknown people. At this time, Xiao appears. She puts her hand on the teenager's shoulder with a request to take all the children away. With a rather imposing gait, Xiao heads towards the crowd of workers, her hair curled in a stream of accumulated anger. At the same time, a woman's leg in heels appears from a blue car. It was Xiao. She was running towards the school. The girl wondered to herself that something like this could happen at school. One of the workers extends his hand in front of the girl. He warns the girl that at the moment construction work is underway at the request of the school and entry is prohibited. Xiao, without listening to the man, breaks through the fence, pushing him away. One of the men twists his leg and falls to the ground. The fence opens from the walls on the sides. At this moment, a giant ball of green essence rises into the sky. Xiao stops and covers his face with his hands. The workers were also at a loss as to what they were seeing now. Xiao, holding on to the wall, is surprised to see Xiao Qian. Xiao soared in the sky, and around her, all the people standing nearby rose up with screams. The worker who refuses to help crawls to the side. A man covers his face from the strong wind. He was also frightened by what he saw. The brigadier, still in the sky, asks to spare them. Kun, trying to get out of the tornado of people, asks the people below to help him. Stones from the destroyed school are also sucked into the tornado. Kun adds that he has a lot of money and will give everything if he is released. One of the stones flies out of the airstream, bouncing in Xiao's voice, causing the girl to fall to the ground. Kun, with tears in his eyes, asks to be released, saying that he will generously compensate for Ning's death. Xiao had little interest in this. She decides to finish it by attracting everything in the air towards her. Men begin to be attracted to each other with all their might. The stones around them are still spinning in the strong wind. But Xiao was determined, and with her clawed hand she continued to torture people, saying Ning Chen's name to himself. She planned to finish all this quickly and join Ning. There was intense pain in her eyes. A huge hand in a green glow sharply squeezes everything in the tornado. There was a loud crunch, causing everything around Xiao to turn black and red. In the center of it all, the silhouette of a girl was visible. Xiao was lying at the main entrance, drops of black liquid falling next to the girl. The girl was unconscious. Drops of liquid continued to fall from the sky and onto Xiao's shirt. At this time, Song arrives quickly approaching Xiao's unconscious body. He was very concerned about his girlfriend's condition. With Xiao in his arms, he heads to a safe place. He was glad that the girl was okay and he managed to help her. Placing the girl near the wall, he asks her to wait a little while he figures out the situation. Taking out his staff, surrounded by a purple glow, he stands opposite Xiao. The system adds that Xiao Qian is an alien from the Liao dimension. The system was outraged that Song did not immediately decide to attack. She believed that innocent people were killed and they should destroy the alien as quickly as possible. Sun, putting on his cat mask, was at a loss as to how it came to this, because she is Ning Chen's girlfriend. The system immediately stops the guy from such thoughts. It is driven by an alien and quite dangerous for ordinary people, which Sun agrees with. Sun rises into the sky with a slight movement. He planned to intercept the alien as quickly as possible and deal with him. Jumping over the rubble of neighboring buildings, he climbs behind Xiao. His thoughts were to prevent even greater casualties from this alien. Xiao, getting as close as possible, swings his staff at the girl with all his might. Xiao, with tear-stained eyes, didn't even pay attention to Sun. She didn't care much after all this. Sun notices the girl's face out of the corner of his eye. He couldn't understand what he was seeing now. Quite surprised, he realized that these were Xiao's tears. Sun tries to stop a centimeter away from Xiao, because he is unable to do it. Sun manages to take the staff away, only hitting Xiao a little. The girl was shocked by such a blow. This causes a green glow to disappear around Xiao, and she herself falls to the ground. Sun lands next to the girl. The system was outraged that Sun stopped. because this was the only chance to destroy such a serious enemy with one blow. Sun, with a serious face, believes that he did the right thing, because he is not a machine, but a person and wants to understand this situation. Xiao sat at Sun's feet with a rather lost face. The guy is trying to find out what happened and why she did it. Xiao, looking at Sun, decides to tell him that he knows him, because Ning Chen had previously shown a photo of him. With a smile, she adds that to Ning, he was a good person. Having changed her face, the girl begins to cry again, because she was disappointed in people because of the death of her loved one. Song, with an upset face, decides to find out where Ning Chen's body is now. At this time, the sky becomes very cloudy and heavy rain begins. Xiao, holding Nina's head on her lap, mourns the body of her loved one. The system decides to support Sun by providing her condolences. She adds that unfortunately they do not have a pill that can bring a person back from the other world. Continuing to cry, Xiao adds that Ning did not keep his promise and they did not get married, and now she has no one to take care of. Putting her hand on Nina's face, she remembers how she met him. For her, this was the best person in the last 500 years. Sun's eyes also became wet. He blamed himself for what happened. The guy couldn't believe that he could allow this to happen under his nose. Turning his head away without showing tears, Sun asks Xiao if he can somehow help the girl. Xiao briefly replies that no, her nails turn back into claws. She adds that she will finish this herself by extending her claws to her neck. Sun, hearing this, immediately turns to Xiao. He tries to prevent this, but does not have time. The children nearby are trying to understand through tears what the girl is doing now. Xiao falls soullessly next to Ning. You could see a smile on her face. Xiao reflects one last time that now she can be with him forever. On the wall there is an inscription that a school is being built, and in the background the construction of a new school is in full swing. There is a grave under a lonely tree near the school fence. Song and Yixiao stand opposite her. The girl puts flowers at the grave. The initials of Ning Chen and Xiao Qian can be seen on it. The girl with a sad face assumes that they are there together and happy. Sun adds that he thinks the same. There was a thought in his head that now Yixiao was also at risk. Sun, with a serious face, believes that he will protect his girlfriend at all costs. At this time they tightly take each other's hands. Yixiao invites Sun to come to her house for dinner because her mother has long wanted to meet a guy. Sun was embarrassed by this proposal, adding that he needed to leave for work. Sun thought in his mind that he needed to become stronger as soon as possible and protect her and his loved ones. The couple slowly heads towards the exit. The system, being nearby, believes that people are quite stupid and emotional, and also die quite quickly. After the death of Ning Cheng and Xiao Qin, Song left the village. He wanted to become able to stand up for Yixiao and protect her from danger. Subsequently, Song began to carry out all the tasks to destroy evil. In Tokyo, he destroyed the alien using a sword. In New York, Sun struck down a giant ape with a powerful punch. After visiting Changshan, he solved problems of protecting nature. Pretending to be a deity, Sun punishes a worker for leaving his saw running. The worker tearfully asks for mercy. Over such a long period of completing tasks, a large number of awards have accumulated at his disposal, and his skills with a sword and spear have improved significantly. Sun also made great progress in the improvement branch through the system. The cultivation level was as elevated as the disappearance without a trace. In addition to all of the above, Sun was nicknamed the Master of the Spear and became very popular. Fan clubs even began to appear in his honor. But there was a downside to such fame. Due to his popularity, people began to massively sell products with his image. Sun really liked this attention and it greatly influenced him. He began to become somewhat arrogant. Standing on the balcony of one of the skyscrapers, he understood in his thoughts that behind his amazing image was an ordinary guy with access to the codes of life. Against the background of the sun, a hand in a golden glove with 5 different stones on each finger can be seen. A purple man was sitting on the roof of one of the many buildings. He complained about weak people and that for him it was just another monotonous world. Sun stood around the corner, ready to act. The system was also ready for any outcome of events. With her hands in her pockets, Sun slowly approaches the man. The guy decides to ask why the destroyer considers people's lives boring, because his life is no less meaningless. The destroyer turns his head at Suna in surprise. He was amazed that someone knew him in this world. The man tried to find out which coalition Song was from. The system notices that this is a destroyer from a purple planet with an ES level. He narrows his eyes and states that he doesn't really care who Sun really is. With a grin, he shows his hand with a huge glove. He adds that he will soon destroy this world with a snap of his fingers. Immediately the destroyer snaps his fingers, expecting the usual effect of this action. People below the house continue to take photographs. The cat passes by without reacting in any way. The destroyer was shocked that nothing happened. The question in his mind was how this could be. Sun stood behind him calmly. The destroyer angrily clicks a few more times. He was amazed by the fact that he had spent a lot of time on these stones, but nothing was happening. Once again, snapping your fingers, the glove begins to break, because it was just a cheap analog. Sun, looking at the destroyer, decides to show off his glove. He asks if the man was talking about these stones. Unperturbed, Sun adds that the glove can perform any task and is still better than his glitchy system. The destroyer looks at the guy with an angry look. He was unhappy that he was ahead of him. At that moment, the destroyer jumps up and attacks the guy, screaming. Sun, saying that it's time for the destroyer to go home, snaps his fingers. This stops the destroyer's fist halfway, and the man's body slowly collapses. He couldn't understand how this was possible, while at the same time remembering how just recently a girl asked to take a photo with him. The destroyer takes a carefree photo with Song Yichen, who is dressed as a girl. With screams, the destroyer completely disappears, disappearing into the sky. Sun stands opposite and watches this. The system was at a loss as to how Sun managed to force him to take off the destroyer's glove. Sun adds that there is one weakness that no man can resist. Taking off his eyelashes and throwing them on the floor, Sun slowly heads towards the exit from the roof. Arriving home, Sun decides to relax and take a long break from daily worries. Lying on the sofa, Sun decides to contact the system to clarify what kind of unusual reward they were talking about. With a strong glow, the system suggests entering the development branch. Sun, being inside the system, wonders why all this mystery is, for which he immediately receives the answer that the guy does not know everything that is hidden in the system. The system decides to explain where all the energy received from each destroyed alien goes. Sun writes everything down in a notebook. He is surprised by this turn. Abruptly throwing the notebook, Sun angrily asks to finish this and finally tell the essence of it all. The system, accompanied by confetti and other highlights, announces that it has moved to a new level and now they have new capabilities. Having dispelled the fog, a huge pink machine with toys appears before Sun's eyes. The guy approaches it in surprise. Sun puts his hands to the glass and wants to play this machine. Behind the glass one can see various strange objects reminiscent of relics. The system explains that the guy needs to scan his fingerprint and 100,000 will be charged for one game. Sun is confused as to why he needs to pay for this game. With a malicious smile, he added that it was too cheap to pay for his status. The system also asks the guy to raise his head and look around more carefully. The guy raises his head in surprise. A huge skyscraper stands before Sun's eyes. The guy was surprised by such a building in the system and did not understand what it served. At the entrance to the tower, the guy reads that this is the Tower of Heroes. Going inside, the system explains that the first floor is a storage room where all of his weapons are located. The system calls this floor the exhibition floor, adding that the remaining hundreds of floors up are reserved for the submissive Suna aliens. Sun decides to clarify that he has the power to take control of aliens. To this, the system explains that the aliens who submit can become his assistants. In the outside world they do not upset the balance, because they are in this tower. Holding his head, Sun believes that if he had known earlier, he would not have killed the destroyer, because he was quite strong and would have looked great in his tower. The system stops Suna by adding that not all aliens can be subdued. Realizing that the guy won't remember anyway, he suggests studying this in parallel with specific examples. The system looks around without finding the guy. At this time, the machine at the entrance twitched strangely. Sun has already started playing it, trying to get the heavenly robe, which adds 10,000 to strength and other aspects. But the sphere with the mantle falls, hitting the corner. The guy was outraged by the lost scope. Sun continued to play for quite a long time, causing a large number of different things to form around his feet, but the guy was still indignant that he couldn't get the robe. In the real world, the guy was just twitching his hands, muttering something under his breath. Someone is trying to call the guy's phone. This time he was lucky and the mantle ended up in the right place. Overjoyed, the guy begins to scream, believing that this day was not in vain. The phone continued to ring at this time. Sun pays attention to the phone lying next to him. Picking up the phone, the guy calls his interlocutor Fatty Chan, asking what he's doing. Sun talks on the phone with a smile. He notices that his friend Chan wants to go into business and spend all his money on it. Picking his nose, the fat man is glad that today the main stars of the future film will be present in his program, but he still thinks that he can go alone. Covering his face, Sun believes that this is a serious matter for him. Therefore, the guy decides to go there with him. The first take of the film begins on the set. A girl in a robe walks between the camera equipment, slowly starting to take off her robe. At this time, a woman from the film crew runs in. She is surprised that Soa is in front of her, because she is already filming. The girl is also surprised, because she just came to the set. The woman does not know what to answer the actress. Arriving at the set, everyone films the bathroom scene. The director and the entire film crew are bustling around the bathroom. A man with purple hair is sitting in the bathroom, suspecting nothing. He continued to wash himself. The man decides to turn around, wondering where he might have ended up. This surprised him greatly. The woman and the actress were surprised how beautiful the girl in the bathroom was. They couldn't believe their eyes. The cameraman tries to explain to the director that they made a mistake, but the man shrugs it off. The director asks to point all the cameras and continue filming, as well as point all the light at her. He was pleased with this scene. A man in the bathroom shields himself from the strong light with his hand. At this moment he decides to stand up to his full height. The film crew and actress were surprised by this spectacle. The director opens his mouth and declares that this is against all laws of nature. A man with a serious face clarifies why they are all here and whether they want to kill. He calls himself Lord Lon Ling and asks to know their names. The director was surprised by this statement about the killers. The screenwriter adds that they have nothing like that. The rest of the crew is still standing in disbelief. The director suddenly starts clapping and says that this is a wonderful acting job. Pointing his finger at Lon, he declares that he will participate in his next film and take the main male role. Lon didn't understand what the director was talking about and what kind of role this was. On social media networks have already announced a new film, A Lovely Smile, from the cover of Lanya. Lon appeared unexpectedly for everyone and instantly won the hearts of millions of fans, presenting other projects. Walking past a crowd in Hengshan City, girls greeted the guy by name, also declaring that they loved him. The girls showed their posters and rejoiced at Lan's presence, but the guy did not share such warm feelings with the crowd. Lon publicly says that people should work better on cultivating the fields or staying at home with their children, to which the public reacts approvingly and supports him. One of Lan's assistants states that investors will arrive that day and he will have to attend the meeting. The guy was not very happy with this situation. The Do silently leaves to the side. His assistant says goodbye to the audience, adding that this is food for thought. The crowd continued to support the movie star. The assistant will repeat that Lon needs to meet with investors. The Do wanted to return in his thoughts, because he was already tired of this world. The girl, covering herself with a cap, declares that Do Ling is her betrothed and they will definitely meet again. At this time, a limousine arrives at the entrance from which Mr. Chan gets out. Sun, standing next to his friend, declares that he looks like a very serious guy. Sun assumes that his fat friend decided to invest only because there are many beautiful actresses in the film. Chan immediately states that this is a serious film and there are only serious stars, even supporting ones. In Sun's opinion, this entire complex was built just for one film. One of the workers invites Mr. Chan to follow him. At the entrance they are greeted by a producer with a rather extraordinary appearance, De Jijun. The producer asks the girl to meet Mr. Chan. The fat man was excited about this. The girls hear this and greet Mr. Chan nicely. The fat man blushed a little. He stammered in the same way and asked to meet his close friend Sun. Chan points with his hand to the place where Sun stood a second ago, but he was no longer there. One of the girls invites Mr. Chan to star in one of the cameo roles. The producer supports this idea and states that he will arrange everything. Sun at this time goes behind the scenery, checking with the system whether it definitely noticed the alien and where he could have come from here. The system confirms this by adding that Song should present the dial and look at 2 o'clock. Lon stood before Sun's eyes, stroking a white horse. The guy asks the system if he is looking at it. The Do, continuing to stroke the horse, says that he understands it and also wants to leave this place. Sun, looking at Lon, believes that he does not look like a villain or even a problematic person. the system begins to hint that this is why the point of the task is not to eliminate. Sun, understanding the hint, is inspired. He also wants to subjugate this alien. The guy wants to add to his collection and revive his endless tower of heroes. At this time, girls take pictures with the fat man. Chan privately resented Sun for abandoning him. Chan notices Sun and is surprised that among the large number of women, he is interested in a guy. Sun approaches Lon with a smile, asking him to step away and talk in private. The assistant states that this is Mr. Chan's friend and Lon should be more polite with him. At this moment, the assistant also removes the mask from Lan's face. Sun notices how beautiful Lan's face is, noting that he is much more handsome than any actor with a lot of plastic surgery. Lon questions what Sun wanted from him. The assistant adds that he leaves them for personal communication. Song was still amazed by such beauty. Sun, holding his chin, realizes that this is ruler Lon Ling. Sun, embarrassed, realizes that they are very similar because he also prefers to work in a mask. Sun points at himself with a confident face. He declares that from now on he should be with him. In Lan's head, there was a guy in front of him offering to be with him and make him an even bigger star. The Do, with his head down, already understood what kind of people were surrounding him. In this world, he understood that this was a typical producer who wanted to make a star out of him. Sun, without trying to explain everything, declares that from now on Lon will be able to live in his endless tower of heroes and use any weapon. After all, such a warrior should be with him and prove himself as a warrior. Veins began to appear on Lan's forehead from anger. He took it like a director offering to live in an expensive house and provide him with toys. The system, realizing that this is hopelessly hanging its head, Lon was burning with anger next to Sun. Sun ends it with a smile, asking if he agrees. A blazing aura formed around Lon. He demands that the guy close his mouth. Very angry, he declares that he will tear out Sun's tongue for his words. Lan's forehead was covered with veins, and there was intense anger in his eyes. Sun doesn't stop and puts his hand on Lan's shoulder. The guy asks how he likes his proposal and whether he wants to see that very tower first. The Do clenches his fist to restrain himself. Lon tightly grips Sun's wrist and throws him with all his might. Sun is very surprised. He is already in the air. The Do angrily lifts the guy above his head. Lon throws him to the side, but Sun manages to do something greasy and land on his feet in front of the man. Sun accepts the challenge and gets into a fighting stance. He offers to check who has better kung fu. Lon was surprised that Song was familiar with martial arts. Embarrassed, Lon decides to find out why. Instead of defending his homeland, the guy offers him such vile things. Lon turns his back to Sun and gives him the middle finger. Sun looks at the man questioningly. Still in his fighting stance, he wonders why he just left. The system sighs languidly. Using a bullhorn, one of the employees announces that all the actors should go to the dressing room and begin preparations. There was a bustle on the set. All people were actively preparing for filming. The man adds that the next scene will begin soon. One of the girls takes Sun's hand. She asks the guy not to be shy, because everyone has already taken care of his place and he will have to take off. The man explains Sun's role, that he will play one of the commanders-in-chief of the city's defense, pointing with his finger where he should stand. At this time, the girl touches the guy's face, surprised at how good his skin is. Mr. Chung supports Sun, asking him not to lose the city's defense. The same producer walks next to him waving his hand. Sun was outraged by this, calling Chan a fat man. He did not want to play in this play. The start of the first scene is announced. The actors begin preparations for the defense of the city. Sun, having gotten used to the role, confidently stood on the stone wall. His attire consisted of armor with gilded pauldrons and a blood-red cloak. Sun grinned. He remembered his lines. He was confident in his abilities, because protecting the city was more important to him than life. An enemy army with numerous cavalry is approaching the entrance to the castle. At the head of the entire army was Lon. The guy understood that his enemy was the main character. Sun knew that he would have to lose and put down his weapon. His character's only function was to realize the full potential of the protagonist. Picking his nose, the guy thought it was very pathetic. The actors standing nearby were at a loss as to what Sun was talking about. The woman sitting next to him emphasizes that their wall was very beautifully made. The woman adds that they only need one side, thereby saving most of the money. Chan only observed the scenery in Sun's back. Chan didn't know that it was Sun. He wondered whether he was offended by this adventure. At this time, Lon and his cavalry were approaching the main gate. The man had a mask on his face. The director stands in front of the actors and tells them that, on his command, everyone should begin the attack and follow Lon. The girl standing next to him quietly said that she was very close to Lon. The guy doesn't react to this at all. The girl takes out her pink phone and starts filming him from behind. She planned to sit at the same table with him on a date. At this time, the director approaches her and loudly shouts for the actors to be more professional and put away their phones. The guy asks if the girl even knows how to ride a horse and if she won't ruin the take. The girl angrily asks to leave her alone and continue filming. The girl states that there is nothing difficult about horseback riding, because she has seen it on TV many times. The man asks all the actors to prepare for the shot, after which the entire crowd moves closer. After the start, all the horses suddenly begin to run towards the castle. Sun, having gotten used to his role, asks his subordinates to close the main gate and prepare the archers. One of the people standing nearby waves him off. Preparations are taking place on the wall. Song watches Lan's running cavalry with a serious face. At that moment, Sun's face changes and he watches in surprise at what is happening in the center of the crowd. The actor standing next to him did not understand what to do. The director behind the screen was outraged by Sun's actions, asking the actor not to overact. At this moment, another of the assistants comes running and asks to pay attention to the problem. The director turns around indignantly and other people behind the monitors follow him. In the center of the cavalry, a girl's horse kicks, causing her to lose control. In a huge stream of extras, she falls from her horse. The doe hears the man fall, which is why he pays attention to it. He jumps off his horse and quickly runs towards the girl. The actors were at a loss what was happening on the set. The doe lands next to the wounded girl and looks at her. Taking the girl by the head, he examined her for injuries. In her eyes, Lon was a hero who asks the girl if she is okay. The girl, lost in her daydreams, believes that this is the best moment in her life. The girl blushed. The doe, thinking that she is in order, throws it onto the neighboring horse. He also notices that the girl's horse got caught in the decorations, causing it to kick violently. The hind catches up with his horse and quickly heads towards this horse. He orders the others to disperse as quickly as possible. The actors were at a loss what was happening and what kind of sound they were hearing now. At this time, the wall slowly begins to crack. People on top begin to panic, because the cracks have already reached their part. Drawing his sword, the hind almost reaches the caught horse. The doe manages to cut the bit, freeing the enraged horse. He turns his head. People were running away from the crumbling wall in fear. On his horse he manages to jump away from the falling scenery. The wall was rapidly falling on the confused crowd. People did not know what to do. The director held his head in his hands and believed that this was the end for them and nothing would help them. Chan tries to break through the people behind his friend. The director covered his face with his hands, trying not to look at all this horror. Chan is crying because his friend has just stopped being poor. The writer and producer notice a strange shadow in the sky. Chan opens his eyes and also notices this strange man heading towards the wall. People standing in safety assumed that this was Superman saving the crowd. Chan still tearfully sees hope in this, calling the unknown a domestic superhero. It was Sun and he couldn't be happier that he took that same heavenly mantle. With light movements he manages to tie up all the actors and lift them into the sky. He adds that his ability to fly makes him a perfect spear master. Slowly, all the people on the building landed safely next to the film crew. They were glad to be saved. Flying back to Song Castle, one touch prevents further destruction of the scenery. Song asks Lon to continue evacuating all the people while he holds the wall. The doe, having supported their savior, gallops on his horse after the rest of the victims. The system asks Sun to stop showing off, because it will only be enough for him to hold the wall like that for a few seconds. Sun's hand gradually begins to twitch. Sun quickly thinks about what to do in this situation. He planned to avoid such large losses among the actors. The idea comes to his mind to use the evaporating blow. With one swing he decides to hit the wall and evaporate it. He believed that after the blow there would be nothing left of the wall. There is a strong blow to the middle of the wall, from which a large ball of dust rises. Sun, considering that everything is ready, laughingly calls himself a spear master for whom there are no unsolvable tasks. The system screams for Sun to wake up, because he hasn't done anything useful. The dust clears and Sun turns his attention to the wall. There was a huge hole in the wall, but the wall itself continued to fall on the crowd. Sun begins to hold the falling wall with all his might. He asks the system to get a superpower pill, to which the system immediately begins a search. The system instantly applies the properties of the super strength pill, causing Sun to feel a surge of enormous power. Sun rises above the wall with incredible speed. He hits the wall with many of his punches to destroy the wall. Several stones still fall on defenseless people, they only have time to scream. At this time, the doe arrives and destroys the falling stones, saving defenseless people. The man asks to quickly leave here and not to panic. Sun continues to destroy the wall with a series of blows, causing it to rapidly collapse. Sun, with a serious face, states that this is his only chance and he can't screw it up. From such powerful blows, huge holes appear all over the wall. The people who had already retreated to a safe distance were glad to be alive, expressing gratitude to the spear master. They were also surprised that the wall simply evaporated. The director, still crying, asks the heavens for further investment in his films. The surviving people could not get enough of their salvation, they shouted words of support for the spear master. Sun slowly descends towards the crowd wearing his signature mask. People stretched their hands to his feet and called him the master of the spear. The system decides to ask again whether the guy is pleased to hear this, to which Sun decides to remain silent. But unable to contain his emotions, he blushed and said that he was very pleased to hear this from people. The system punches Sun's head, asking him when he plans to tame Lan Ling. Sun, holding his head, reminds them to be more polite with him, because he is a folk hero. People notice Lan Ling coming from the thick smoke. Lan Ling walked holding 2 more wounded people. He calmly walked towards the crowd. Having laid them on the ground, the guys could not be happier that they were still alive. Lan approaches Sun. People understand that against the background of the spear master, they completely forgot about Lan Ling, but he made no less contribution to saving people. The girls standing next to Chan could not help but be amazed by the beauty of the spear master and Lan. Chan's face changes at the moment. He remembers that all this is not important to him. After all, his friend was never found. Chan also understands that Sun was at the very top, but after the collapse of the castle he never saw him. Chan begins to understand everything, which makes his face even more horrified. I don't raise the girls, what's going on? Lan also understands who is in front of him, which is why he calls Sun a guy with a strange proposal. Sun notices that Lan is not a stupid person and immediately realized who exactly was in front of him. Lan extends his hand to Sun, saying that until he finds a way to return home, he is ready to help save people. Suna is touched by this and with tears in his eyes he calls Lan his brother. Taking him by the shoulder, he believes that they are of the same blood and they should stick together. After all, the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. Sun shakes his new friend's hand tightly. Raising his hands, Sun adds that as long as they work together, humanity can sleep peacefully. People standing around support them with loud shouts and clapping. Somewhere deep in the forest, an unknown man is digging a deep hole. Crow watches what is happening. At the moment he runs into a strange obstacle. Removing the ground, he observes a wooden box. The man went down and was glad that he found it. He believed that after all this he would become rich for many years. A stream of violet energy begins to flow from the wooden box. The guy steps aside in surprise. The guy doesn't understand what's happening. He thought it was very strange, but still stretched out his hands to the box. A half-rotten hand bursts out of the box and grabs the man by the throat. The unknown person doesn't even have time to scream. With great speed, the man is thrown into a nearby tree. A strange man in a purple robe quickly crawls out of the coffin. He takes the unknown man by the throat. He asks him to stop and not kill him. An unknown demon bites a man's throat, causing his veins to glow with a red glow. A few minutes later, the unknown person leaves to the side, leaving the man devastated next to the tree. The police immediately surrounded the area. One of the officers called the man a treasure hunter. They did not understand how this murder happened. The doctors put the dead man on a stretcher and carry him away. A girl standing nearby is reporting from the crime scene. The man stands up abruptly and jumps on the girl, biting her on the neck. A girl sitting at home after seeing the report was horrified by this event. An old man passing by declares that this is an ordinary zombie. The girl did not understand what kind of zombies her grandfather was talking about. The girl decides to ask what kind of zombie this is. In her thoughts she already understood that she would not be able to simply relax while visiting her grandfather. But Grandfather Yen was happy about this event because he had such an honor to prove himself. Song and Lon raised their hands after saving people. After filming the new film, all the main sets were destroyed. The crowd was eagerly awaiting Lan's return, but since then the guy has not appeared in public again. Sun sat in his room and watched a recent news report. He had little interest in this. Sun sat calmly on the sofa and continued to consider himself a great and terrible anonymous hero. Sun began to laugh sharply. He was waiting for the system to reward him for recent events. Against the background of his endless tower, Sun was promoted to a master at the peak. He received quite a lot of different armor and weapons. An unusual object in the form of a white elephant dragon egg also fell into his hand. Sun was surprised by this award. The doe comes out of the endless tower, greeting Sun. He is interested in what kind of object he has in his hands. Sun himself did not understand what kind of object he had. He decided to shake the egg sharply. The shaking slowly begins to crack the egg. Song and Lon were surprised by this, because a strange horned creature began to appear in front of them. In front of them, the baby white elephant dragon is fully hatched. The animal suddenly jumps on Sun's face, which he definitely didn't expect. Sun, throwing the shell, pulls the pet away from his face, after which he asks the system again whether this is really a reward. The guy did not understand what benefit such a small pet could have. The system with a smile asks the guy to call the pet by name and then he will see the natural form of the animal. Sun agrees with this. Taking the pet, he lifts it above his head with the words elephant dragon. After a quick transformation, the pet becomes 100 times larger, causing it to fall straight onto Suna. The doe begins to laugh at this turn, noting that this world has its own charms. Sun does not quite understand his friend, asking him to help him. The system sighs that its interceptor is behaving rather strangely. In most cases, in his opinion, interceptors should be calm and tough men. The system adds that the way Sun behaves is not at all similar to what was described above. At this time, Sun tries with strength to get out from under the pet. At this time, someone is knocking on the door trying to call Icheng. Yixiao decides to open the door, apologizing for it, because she has been knocking for quite some time. Yixiao watches as Sun rolls on the floor screaming that he should stop playing around in front of him. The girl didn't quite understand what she was seeing now. Sun turns to stone with shame. He realizes that he forgot about his date with his girlfriend Yixiao. Yixiao closes her eyes in shame. She adds that she didn't see anything and would rather go and prepare food in the kitchen. Sun was depressed by this turn, because he wanted to remain a hero in her eyes. Sun realizes with a smile that his girlfriend is the best in the world. At this time, someone is also trying to enter Sun's house. His friend Chan suddenly jumps towards Sun. With tears he was depressed. After all his money was invested in that very film, and now he had nothing at all. Sun allows Chan to hug him, stroking him. He calls Chano fat, asking him not to cry over such trifles. The guy was very depressed. But Sun blushes at what his friend is doing. He demands to stop doing this to him. Chan smiles and decides to check his muscles by running his hand over his torso. He observes the steely pecs. Chan becomes convinced that his friend is the master of the spear. At this time, Lon watches everything, calling it a live broadcast of a reality show. Being in a room with a beach, he wonders why he is watching this and where he is. The doe realizes that he has been in the endless tower for several days and has done nothing at all during this time. He remembers that Sun allowed him to do whatever he wanted in this building. The doe pulls the pet's tail out of anger. He adds that he feels like a pet in a cage. The pet jumps from Lan's arms in pain. The guy apologizes for his actions while still holding his pet by the tail. The system angrily asks both to shut up because he is working now. The pet breaks free and strokes its tail. The doe, inspired, gets to his feet and asks if there are tasks for him. The system talks about recent events in Xiangxi County and that one of the villages was attacked by zombies, but he cannot detect them at all on his radar. The doe with a serious look suggests that these zombies could not come in peace. The doe decides to go and deal with these zombies. The pet supports him and goes after him. The system sighs. She understands that now he will have to keep an eye on more than just Sun. At this time, Longshan village was completely destroyed and soulless. There was deathly silence in the village after the recent events. Residents of a neighboring village came to understand what was happening. They noticed that although the village had been calm before, it was not clear what could happen here. One of the volunteers says that, according to rumors, this settlement was attacked by zombies and they are unlikely to be able to help anyone. the rest of the crowd supports the idea of returning. A guy with a stupid appearance reminds that they came with him, which means they will defeat all these zombies. The crowd was not very inspired by this, because they understood that the guy only had a hoe. The guy laughs loudly after such a statement. Strange human sounds were heard from the house next to which they stood. After this, zombies begin to emerge from the darkness. A second later, a crowd of zombies was already heading towards them with heartrending screams. People were very frightened by such a spectacle. They did not understand how they would have to deal with it. Seeing all this, the guy who wants to deal with this begins to run away one of the first. At this time, an elderly man and his granddaughter were walking to the Yang family estate. Walking along the broken streets, the girl notices that she is surprised that their family estate is so mysterious. The man calmly continues to walk ahead. The man decides to add that his granddaughter has not yet seen their main secret. Arriving at one of the old buildings, an elderly man stops in front of a coffin. The girl decides to ask her grandfather why they came here. The man points with his hands, inviting her to look more closely. The man pushes the lid of the coffin with a strong movement of his hand, causing it to fall nearby. The girl notices a secret passage inside the coffin. She was very surprised. The man asks not to be left behind, quickly heading inside the coffin. The girl didn't like it much. She was worried that it was very cold there. She didn't understand what her grandfather could have kept in such a place. Going down the huge spiral staircase, the man says that they have finally arrived. The girl held her face and was very surprised by what she saw. A huge man covered with a cloth opened in front of her, numerous chains stretched to his feet. The older man calmly steps closer. He adds that for them this is a story that has been going on for centuries, namely the fight against dishonesty. The man did not want their legacy to cease to exist, and today he will introduce his granddaughter to this craft. Having taken the bell, he wants to introduce the girl to his assistant, the dead warrior. After pronouncing the oath, the dead warrior is covered in green flame, and at this time the chains begin to slowly collapse. The same dead warrior appears in front of the girl. It was a 2-meter man in red armor, all covered with seals and chains. The girl was surprised how big the man was. The dead warrior's eyes light up red after all this. The girl asks if he really has been resurrected. The elderly man confirms this by adding that now he even follows his orders and is ready to defeat all evil spirits. The girl, touching the armor of the dead warrior, believes that they can take him with them and go to war against a crowd of zombies. The man couldn't be happier that his granddaughter had grown up and was ready to go to war against zombies. A small group of soldiers landed at a safe distance from the village. At this point, people are divided into 3 groups and their task is explained. The third squad was assigned to protect the survivors, from which the eldest was surprised. The blue-haired girl at the head of the entire squad demands to follow her. A man who has already been to special operations is indignant that he is being led by some girl, because she could continue to sit calmly in the hall of the capital's headquarters. The girl standing at the cliff in her thoughts was glad that she was able to visit this special operation. She wanted to see that same person. At this time, Sun, while at home, sneezes several times. He thinks that someone is remembering him. At this time, devastation reigns in the village itself. Soulless bodies of zombified people walk along the streets. Several of them tried to eat a dead person. Several zombies hear rustling in a small house. They all quickly head out to find out what the noise is. A woman and a child were hiding in the house. The boy, frightened, decides to ask his mother whether they will become the same as the others. The woman tries to reassure the child that if they sit quietly, nothing will happen. Holding her son closer, she adds that they just need to wait until morning. At this moment, their roof breaks, causing the woman to scream in fear. With a heartrending scream, the zombies are trying to get to the woman. There were quite a lot of them. The zombies completely surrounded the house and almost destroyed its foundation. Those who could not walk tried to crawl to their victims. The dead men managed to get to the woman's back, from which they begin to tear her jacket, scratching her body. The woman hides the child behind her body. The boy cries. Numerous zombie hands reach out to the woman. A woman with tear-stained eyes asks not to be afraid of her son, because everything will be okay. One of the zombies breaks through the wall behind the woman and quickly flies towards her, trying to bite her. At this moment, a huge axe flies towards the zombie. With light movements of the axe, the dead warrior cuts up all the zombified people near the house. Seeing his mother's wounded body, the boy cries a lot. The woman, squinting, also understands the complexity of the situation. A girl and an elderly man slowly approached the frightened couple. They notice survivors. The girl asks with a smile if the boy is okay. A man with a serious face looks at the couple. The boy, bursting into tears, reaches out to the girl. He tries to explain that his mother was wounded. The girl tries to calm the boy down, saying that he is safe and he shouldn't worry. Behind the elderly man stood the same dead warrior. The dead warrior turns his attention to the wounded girl, his eyes light up red seeing danger. The boy walks away from his mother screaming. He was very frightened, which is why he continued to cry. The girl pats the boy on the head, calling the warrior by name and adding that this is their ally and he will help. The boy points to his mother, pointing out her wounds. The girl was confused because she didn't know how to help the woman. The woman begins to scream loudly in pain. She wriggles in hellish agony. The boy tries to call her. The woman, with tears in her eyes, looks at her son for the last time. At the same moment, her pupils disappear and turn into soulless flesh. At that very second she pounces on her son, not at all understanding what she is doing. The elderly man manages to react by taking out his wooden sword. The girl covers the boy's eyes, causing him to scream loudly. A man rushes nearby. With a slight movement of his hand, he hits the woman on the head, causing her to continue growling for some time. Her body gradually begins to fall to the ground. In the end she manages to smile at her son. The boy rushes to his mother with pain in his eyes. He was very depressed about this. The boy sat next to him for some time. The girl standing nearby silently examines the rest of the dead. The girl decides to ask her grandfather if they can bring the woman back to life. Since the man has already managed to take control of the dead warrior, the man lowers his head and briefly replies that he cannot. She also adds that there are many levels of zombie decomposition and the woman belongs to the very first, which means she will not be able to return her mind, conditionally like a dead warrior. The man is heading in the opposite direction. He believes that he is no longer able to change anything. The girl clarifies what they should do with the child. The man believes that the boy should find a safe place himself and wait there. He also adds that with them the boy will be much more dangerous. The boy continues to cry over his mother's body. At this time, unknown people come out from behind the house asking him to give the boy to them. The girl looks at them in surprise. Commander Zhao and her squad were walking towards the girl. At that moment, Sun and his friend Lin were moving among the trees. Sun explains with a smile that they have almost reached Longshan village, and he also asks if his friend is tired. Lon adds, slightly short of breath, that he is not tired, because Sun moves quite slowly. A doe in a jump calls himself a military man and such movement for him was like an ordinary campaign. Sun indignantly declares that he is too fast and that in fact he is the hero. The system flying nearby states that it still cannot determine the location of the zombie leader and most likely Sun will remain without a reward. Sun smiles and states that he doesn't care about the reward, he wants to help people. Approaching the cliff, Lon calls Sun, because the battle has already begun without them. Sun, perplexed, catches up with Lon. Sun watches as the military and as yet unknown people fight the zombies. Sun assumes that this is a battle between the military and the sorcerers. The system corrects him and says that they are fighting against a common enemy. But gradually the goiters are pinning some of the survivors against the wall of one of the houses. The military declares that they are surrounded and they can no longer cope. The girl continues to shoot at the zombies. She asks one of her subordinates when help will arrive. To this the man states that they will have to wait at least half an hour. At this time, the girl tries to fight back with her fists. It seems to her that her grandfather spent too little time on combat training. The elderly man casts an explosive spell once again. He adds that he did not expect such a serious horde of zombies. The girl looks at him questioningly. She tried to understand what her grandfather meant. A grandfather throws his granddaughter on the shoulder of a dead warrior. He believes that someone has strengthened the entire zombie crowd. The man knows that hobbling zombies only become walking zombies when they have a leader. This inspires the elderly man, who declares that his granddaughter will soon have her own zombie assistant. The dead warrior became embarrassed at this. The girl clarifies whether she definitely needs a zombie assistant. At this time, in one of the village houses, someone is rummaging through things. One of the zombies helps put on his leader's jacket. It was a zombie with intelligence. He puts on a biker jacket. He also decides to put on a cap with Mickey ears. The zombie leader Xian Kuei looks in the mirror and admires his appearance. At this time, the roof of the building collapses from an elephant dragon flying past. Leader Kuei was angry at such disrespect, Sun demands that the pet fly more carefully. Out of anger, leader Kuei presses to squeeze the two heads of the zombies. The military with the dead warrior were still trying to fight off the zombie crowd. An elderly man tells the military that their leader is nearby, but they lack the strength to resist them. The commander reminds that there is a quarter of an hour left before help, clarifying what plan the man has. The man kicks the zombie in the head, saying that he has no plan, because they are surrounded. The girl notices Sun's pet. She declares that this is exactly the kind of assistant she would like for herself. All survivors notice the pet. Sun asks not to panic, because he has come to save them and solve this problem. Sun apologizes for being late and asks him to follow Lon to safety. At this moment, the doe jumps off the pet. The commander notices Sun and realizes that this is the person she was looking for. Sun, with a serious face, declares that he will deal with this all himself. The doe in the air declares that he was born for battle. He had the same mask on his face. All the survivors state that An is very handsome, and the dead warrior gives a thumbs up for the man's appearance. Sun was very infuriated by this, because Lon again ruined the whole picture. Sun points his finger at the zombie crowd and demands that the elephant dragon burn them all to ashes. Having filled its mouth with air, the elephant dragon begins to burn all the dead under it. The surviving people were amazed by such enormous force.